Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lake Cities podcast with Chris and Lucas. We're happy to be back to you second week in a row coming around the holiday season. It's good to kind of get back in the groove of all this.
Absolutely, man.
Good to see your face 2 weeks in a row.
Man, listen, if something happens to your vision as a result, I'm glad you signed that waiver.
So last week we talked about some of our favorite Christmas movies.
Yep.
You know, we did determine this week, thanks to the guys over at the Christian Nerds Unite podcast, that both Die Hard and Batman Returns do fit Christmas movie criteria. Right. So I was thankful. Thankful for that. Still don't know what's going to end up in that third spot, but it'll be an interesting conversation for later.
Yeah.
My wife and I this weekend got back from one of our new Christmas traditions, right? So Kirsten and I were coming up in March. We'll be married for 2 years.
Come on.
It's the best 2 years of her life, man. I'll tell you that right now. So,
I'll ask her myself.
Yeah, there's not a chance that's the case. Been the biggest struggle she's had in 2 years of her life. So we went down, and her family gets this like Airbnb that's down in Pflugerville.
Okay.
And so they got some family in Austin, some in Victoria, and so Pflugerville's kind of the middle ground for everybody. It's about a 3-hour drive for most of us to get there. And so they rent this one house, and we've got a cousin that's got 7 kids, one that's got 3 kids, and the youngest boys from the 7 and the 3, their names are Wyatt and Waylon.
Okay.
And, bro, we got outlaw country band happening like every day.
Oh, yeah.
And she's got another cousin that's got a couple. So we've got like 17 kids running around in the place. It's awesome. Kirsten's brothers and sisters coming as well. Plus all the, aunts and uncles from that side of the family, the grandparents, the great-grandmother is there.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm the oldest great-grandchild by 14 years almost, I'm telling you. They're like, are you taking pictures of the great-grandkids? Yeah, you're almost 40. I'm like, shut up. I can't even spell 40 yet, jerks.
Whose daddy is that?
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah, I'm old enough to be some of their dads. So we just had an awesome time down there. It's one of the things I really look forward to the most in the year since we've got married, and now this was the second time. They're already talking about doing it again. It's just a ton of fun getting to spend time with family. But what kind of traditions? This is a new tradition for us. What kind of family traditions or Christmas traditions do you guys have?
Yeah, so growing up, we used to just get together on Christmas Eve. So aside from the decorations and looking at Christmas lights, Christmas Eve was our thing. And we would get our immediate family together. I think I've told you in the past, my family was super small, so I've got like one first cousin.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah. And so for those of us who were in the area, because we're kind of spread out, South Florida, primarily North Carolina, and so the Floridians didn't get to come up too often.
Right. Because that was just their excuse because it was cold.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have to tell you the story about my cousin. He saw snow for the first time.
Oh, no.
And he goes outside in some sliders and some shorts. And a white T-shirt. I'm like, bro, you're going to die, right? You're going to see snow and then die in the yard. That'll be it.
Just game over.
Hey, that's it, game over.
Yeah.
And so, but we would get together on Christmas Eve and have, hors d'oeuvres and invite extended family over. And we would literally get together and just sing. Man, we would sing and hang out and eat and complain about the ones who got there late and left too early, and we would kind of fellowship until about midnight.
Right.
We would all pass out like one gift and let people open that up. And then we would, before we left, we'd go around in a circle and just kind of give thanks to God, express what we were grateful for and family. And then we'd sing Silent Night by the Temptations.
Oh, yeah.
And
so which harmony part did you sing?
Man, listen, I was in the key of X, right? So I was just trying to get through the song, brother. You know what I mean? I'd had no lead. They were like, you stay back, Yeah. And so
you make your joyful noise.
That's it. That's all it was, brother. A joyful noise. And we'd pray out, man, and then go home and sleep.
That's awesome. But so my family my dad is the youngest of 5.
Okay.
And so the whole family would get together on Christmas Eve. My aunt would fly in she lived out in California, so she'd fly in like every other year.
Right.
We'd
right.
get together on Christmas Eve. We had the White Elephant gift exchange.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But we had the kids' White Elephant gift exchange, and you had the one for the adults, because the adults sometimes would buy some gifts that the kids had no business picking up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So we had some of that, which was a lot of fun. We used to do like Christmas carols and stuff like that, and we did. One of the things we did when we were with Kirsten's family, I think her Aunt Lori is the one who started that, Lori Paul, is that we put together some stuff for the senior center.
Okay.
So we decorate some mugs, and then they put like some little candies and stuff in it, and anybody that's got an AARP card needs some butterscotch so they can hand out, keep in their pocket, pass out to folks.
That's it.
So we loaded up with some of that, and then this year all the kids did a nativity play.
Okay.
Right, so they dressed them up in like a bed sheet with a hole cut in it, and the halo made out of pipe cleaners, and so sent them out there. It was great. And since I am one of the great grandkids, I got to participate in helping sing, so that was good. I was like, "Look, you can do 2 roles. I can help you sing, or you can just make me the donkey." Like that's about
you be the
it.
Treat,
yeah, I'm a little too big for everything else. It was the only time in my life I've been too big for anything. Is a little kid's Christmas play. And like you were talking about, complaining about the family members that showed up late. That was our family.
Yeah.
Right when we were in, I guess we were little kids. We lived in Hawaii, and we only spent one Christmas in Hawaii, but my granddad used to tell the story that it ruined our families, that we got on what they call island people time.
Okay.
Yeah, where like you say it's 6 o'clock, and at like 6:30, everybody at the house a half hour away is starting to like wake up and get ready so that we can be there a half hour ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, he always accused us of being on island people time.
Oh man.
Which was fun. I mean, it was kind of true.
Yeah.
We got a little
You knew
lax.
all the food was done by the
That's
time
exactly
you got
right.
there.
That's exactly. Speaking of food, what was always like the big Christmas dinner for you guys?
Man, so we growing up, it was pretty traditional, like ham. Yeah, especially being in North Carolina.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So we would have, the ham and the turkey and mac and cheese and dressing and.
Did you ever do Christmas goose?
No.
I didn't either. The
No,
Muppets
no.
Christmas Carol is the only time I ever heard about people doing Christmas goose.
No, brother. No, we stayed in the
You ever
box.
had goose?
No, I haven't.
I can't recall ever having goose either.
CJ hunts, and I think he took a goose, and he may have eaten it, but I looked at it. I was like, nah, let me stick with this chicken.
Yeah, I've been attacked by those things too much as little kids. Like they try to eat me now.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
I misspoke last week and said that A Christmas Carol was written by Lewis Carroll because I got excited, but it's Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens talks about the Christmas goose. Never had that. We did brisket for Christmas.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh man,
that sounds like the Texas way to do it.
I'm telling
brother.
you right now,
Ooh-wee.
it was good. Slow cooked.
Yum.
Melt in your mouth stuff.
That's it.
So let's talk a little bit about what you got going on at church for Christmas Eve, because I know we've talked about the stuff we've done with family, the candlelight services and the Christmas Eve services. Those have always been a big part, I think, for both of us, as we've talked about on previous episodes growing up. What are you guys doing at Antioch this year?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out what folks are doing.
Yeah.
So we're not doing anything on Christmas Eve. And the other thing of it, I tend to have some difficulty letting go of the fact that we're not technically a church plant anymore at 20 years.
Right.
But we were so young when we planted that we were not really the church that our families would invite their families to. Right. Everybody was going home and, to be with everybody. So we still have a little bit of that in us, where people are going home. So we never really prioritized like the Christmas Eve services or even the Thanksgiving because people were gone.
Right.
But this year, so normally, pre-pandemic, we used to do, the original plays.
Really?
Yeah, man. God has blessed us with some playwrights who, they've had some success, and so they used to write, and we have musicians who wrote original scores and things. And so
that's cool.
So we would do the original plays. The pandemic kind of killed that. But what we're doing something different this year, not doing a play. But you remember, with Easter and the last 7 sayings from the cross.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're kind of taking that as a model, man, and we're looking at some of the messianic prophecies.
Oh, cool.
That point to the birth of Christ or point to Christ and their fulfillment. And so, but we're going to kind of present them in the same tradition like the 7 sayings. So
that's cool.
Multiple preachers. You only got a couple minutes. Get in, get what you need, and get out.
That's awesome.
And then sing, Christmas carols as a part of that. And so we've never done it, and so we're just gonna give it a shot, bro. See how it turns out.
Yeah, so we've flipped a lot of what we do because, last year everything was so crazy trying to figure out what we were and weren't gonna do, and then who was gonna show up and who wasn't. Are we gonna have reserved seats? Are you gonna enforce masks and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
And this year we found that there's still, especially for like parents that have kids, there's still a little bit of hangover from that.
Right.
As people are trying to figure out what's the best way and the safest way.
Absolutely.
Even still. So one of the things we've done though is like I was talking with my family growing up. Christmas Eve was always the big day for us.
Okay.
And so we didn't go to very many Christmas Eve services whenever I was a kid.
Right.
Right. If we hit a candlelight service, it was on like the 22nd or the 23rd because Christmas Eve we would drive from Louisville to Irving to be with my dad's side of the family, and then from Irving all the way out into Wise County and to Boyd to spend time with my mom's family. So we were in the car for 4 hours on Christmas Eve just trying to get to everybody's houses.
Right.
And one of the things that really struck me whenever I became a pastor was how important those services are to people. Because to our family, if we got to go to them, it was kind of a bonus. It was fun to get to be a part of that. But we spent so much time trying to see everybody and make sure that everybody, got to see us as the grandkids and stuff during the Christmas season. It was just kind of crazy. Well, this year we're doing something a little different. So because Christmas Day is on a Saturday, Christmas Eve is on a Friday, we have found out we've got so many people because we got a lot of blue-collar folks that work at our church, and so many of them are being forced in on Christmas Eve.
Oh, my goodness.
Because the amount of time that people missed with COVID that they need, those companies need to be up and running in their eyes in order to make sure that they're hitting their deadlines. And then on top of that is that so much of the people that worked, or so many of the people that worked remote, didn't take their vacation days.
Oh.
Because they didn't have to. They were already home, right?
Home.
Yeah, like why am I going to take a day off for a staycation day if I work for a few hours and I'm already watching Netflix, on my other monitors. Yeah. Like, what's it matter?
Yeah.
And so they have been overloaded with this time that they have at the end of the year. And several of the companies that I know we've got congregants that work for have said, hey, you know what? You can't cash out your time off because everybody's had so much.
Right.
So they made that announcement probably mid-November.
Wow.
And now so many people have been trying to get that week off that, a lot of folks in our congregation. I know that we're not unique in that because I've talked to some other pastors that are having the same thing that hey, our congregates who are normally like big parts of our Christmas productions or, we're key volunteers. Yeah, now that they got to go to work, and they're working until some of them get off at noon, they get the half day thing. And there's a good handful of them that are getting off at like 3 or 4, but we still got some folks that are working until 6. And so we were trying to figure out what can we do to give them the same, family experience to do that. And so we are going to do our candlelight service just like we normally, or the normal candlelight service that we would have. We're going to do it on Wednesday the 22nd.
Okay.
At the same time that we have Wednesday night church, it's kind of already on everybody's schedule. They're working around it. They have time to do whatever, and then that way they get Christmas Eve to spend with their families and, can go and do all that. It's so wild to me, and you can tell me whether or not this has been your experience, the way that the pandemic is still affecting the day-to-day schedules in people's lives.
Sure.
And how we are prioritizing family time in the midst of all of that.
Yeah.
It seems like such an odd thing, and I know we've always kind of strayed away from getting political or walking into a lot of those bear traps that get set out for us in that way. So I'm curious, what are things that you as a father, as a son, You got grown kids now. You got kids that are married.
Bruh.
You know, so what advice would you give to people that are trying to prioritize that family time in order to make it joyful and not stressful this holiday season?
Wow, that's a great question. I think it starts. The first piece of advice I would be is to remember what the goal is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just remember we're trying to find a way to get together. We're trying to find a way to demonstrate, our enduring love for each other.
Yeah.
And desire to, to connect and be together. But in light of these circumstances, we really got to give people freedom to vote for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
And for some folks that may mean that they, restrict, some of the circles that they're in.
Right.
And I think, if love covers a multitude of sin, that means we have to have some flexibility, even if being flexible and being loving in that respect, means that, the dear one is not, at the house as long as they normally would be,
right.
or they're coming with a mask, or, they're, I hate to say it, distancing themselves in some way, because, unfortunately, folks are making those kinds of decisions,
right.
man. And for some people, it's creating a bunch of heartburn,
Right.
And it's unfortunate, but that's just kind of the reality. And so I think, allowing the fact that we love them to create a little bit more margin for some of the things that are less palatable to us,
Mm-hmm.
I think is going to be a way to enjoy what opportunities you do have in light of whatever constraints people have set for themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And to maximize that, man. The fact that we do have, digital resources and technological resources, to bring people into spaces that they don't want to be in physically, sometimes it's just going to have to make it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're just going to have to allow that to be acceptable in this season, while they're trying to figure it out. Because at the end of the day, I think folks are still trying to vote in favor of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, what do you think?
Man, it's a tricky question. I've fallen really in love with the idea of talking about politics at Thanksgiving, because that means it's less Christmas gifts I have to buy, right? Less people I got to plan for being there and hanging out.
And that's it.
Yeah, I'm torn because I'm in the same boat, right? And it's easy to be frustrated with people that were late coming, right? We talked about complaining about the people that come late, but also we have this tendency to assume everybody else's circumstances.
True. True.
Where, they're wearing a mask. There's no need to do that now.
Right.
They decided to do, X, and there's no, I don't understand what their decision. And we have this innate ability to solve things in terms of ourselves for other people.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the biggest things we can do is just to remember, like you said, that time that you've got, that might be all that you get.
Seriously.
And so, like, instead of being bitter about, things not working out the way that you wanted to, or not having people there that you wanted to have there, or et cetera, that you make sure that time that you get with that person, whether it's 30 seconds or 30 minutes,
right.
That you make it about them.
Sure.
Right, during the holiday season. And that's a really difficult thing to do, and especially with how sort of sorted our political climate is right now, that you bring all of those things with you.
Right.
If somebody's little boy or little girl shows up dressed in a way that you don't approve of, or somebody's kid is wearing something because their 13-year-old's been online and determined to now they're going to be an activist.
Exactly.
For whatever.
For whatever.
Right? Then the thing that you said, I think that stuck out to me the most, is like love covers a multitude of sins, but also that it can cover, even in our own hearts, the bitterness or the anxiety or the frustration that we feel about somebody else's stance.
Exactly.
And that's a big thing, especially whenever kids are involved.
Right.
Right, because it's really easy to make a snap decision about what a parent should or shouldn't have done in relation or in regard to their kid. And again, that assuming circumstances.
Sure.
And those can be wounds that last a really long time.
Absolutely.
You can make them in a split second, and then they can last a really long time. And Christmas is supposed to be about the Prince of Peace coming
Absolutely.
down. You know, this past week, I started listening to Rich Mullins.
Okay.
Right? So I remember being forced to listen to him as a kid, and I was like, Rich Mullins sucks. Like, he's like, he's not good. He sings like he's, trying to redub a Kenny G album.
Oh my
Like, there's no cool guitar parts in Rich Mullins stuff, and I was, I'm listening to Metallica and NWA when I'm away from my parents, right? So that's what I want. I want somebody to be yelling at the cops, or I want, somebody, playing music I can headbang to.
Yeah.
And that was not Rich Mullins at all.
No.
But as I've listened and revisited some of his music this past week, because a friend of mine was like, man, if you don't remember how just rich the lyrics were to his songs, he's like, you need to go back and listen to him. And sure enough, in one of his songs, he says, you've been the king of my glories, won't you be my Prince of Peace? And talks about falling on God's grace. And I think that's a really important thing for us to remember, is that extension of grace to somebody else, that we shouldn't assume other people's circumstances, and that like we talked about in one of our first episodes, right? Giving somebody else the benefit of the doubt, especially during this time, can help bring a lot of families together.
Yeah, that's it, man. I mean, how profound it is that this is the season, like you said, that we're to be focusing on the Prince of Peace, man. And there's a lot of family drama that erupts during this time of the year, and so giving people, space to be at peace, and then, we being okay, just with the circumstances as they are in this particular season, man. And today doesn't have to be our forever, but it is what we ought to deal with today. And if we keep in focus, this Prince of Peace, this peaceful time, this period where we see grace, for, in our tradition, to come alive in a person, how fitting it would be for us to be conduits of that. Yeah. Starting first at home, with the people that we love the most.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And it's Bill and Ted had a wonderful saying about this. Let's be excellent to each other. Then maybe that should just be our motto for this Christmas. Well, hey, thank you guys for listening to the Lake Cities podcast. Coming up in the new year, we've got some exciting stuff. I know Lake Dallas has a new city manager. We'll have an opportunity to sit down and talk with her about her vision for the city coming up in 2022. We'll be talking a little bit about some of the things that you can anticipate for the new year, as well as maybe get to touch base with some of our local police department heads.
Good.
And talk about how things have happened, how they've worked for the city post the split between the Corinth and Lake Dallas police departments, and what the future is for both of those cities. So thank you guys for listening. We hope you all have a wonderful and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, stay tuned to the Lake Cities podcast coming up next week.
All righty. Y'all be good.
Chris and Lucas want to thank you for listening to the Lake Cities podcast, a service provided by FBC Lake Dallas and Antioch Christian Fellowship. If you have a topic you would like for Chris and Lucas to discuss, email them at thelakecitiespodcast@gmail.com. Make sure you give us a review and click on the subscribe button to get the latest episodes each week.